Hey, I'm Noah.
This is Adrian. This is Season 2, Episode 2 of Step 1.
Check it out. Today on Gamer's Edge, we're going to be reviewing Battlefield 2142. And I didn't start this game from the launch, I actually just got into it a couple of weeks ago, so I'll be playing the patched up version. So any of the issues that were there before, I will not be talking about because I've never experienced them. So this is my take on Battlefield 2142 on Gamer's Edge. Starting the game up, you may notice that the presentation of the game is pretty cool. The opening movie is pretty neat. It kind of gets you into the game and what the feeling of the game is like, the intensity of the battles that go on. But you may notice that the single player is extremely lacking. Pretty much it's just a multiplayer map thrown with bots into it, and it's really, there's nothing to it. The storyline, it's not even involved in the single player. It's just kind of like the opening movie, and in multiplayer, when you're loading up a map, they kind of tell you like a little like history on the battle. But that's pretty much it. The story is not really expanded upon too much, and they just could have done a better job with doing that, and I wish they had done that. Graphically, this game is really good. I'm personally running on a 6600 GT and a gig of RAM, and it runs pretty well. I have most things on medium, some things on high, and it looks good. Now, depending on your rig, it's gonna be different. If you put the money into it, then for like if you have an 8 series card and 2 gigs of RAM, it's gonna run a lot better and a lot smoother. And obviously you get what you pay for. It's gonna be a lot better experience for you. But for those of us that can't spend that kind of money, then it's still gonna look good. The particles are nice, the lighting is nice. The lag isn't too bad, and it only happens every once in a great while if the server's real bad on the latency and whatnot. But yeah, it's really enjoyable, and I really like the art style with it. The futuristic feeling of everything had a really cool feel to it. For the gameplay of the game, you're pretty much running your standard mouse keyboard setup, which is, you know, a great setup. It's one of my favorites to do, especially for a first-person shooter like this. And the gameplay felt great. Like, honestly, like when you're playing, you really feel like you're in the middle of a battle, and you're just running around killing people. And like when you're getting like consecutive kills one after another, and you're not dying, you just get this like feeling, like this rush that you keep going and you feel unstoppable. And finally, when you die, obviously you feel stoppable. But it's still a great feeling. You feel great playing this game. It's just a lot of fun to play. Now, there's a few issues I had with the hover tank. I really didn't care for how it controlled. They kind of used the mouse to, you know, aim it, and the WASD to strafe with it, and I really didn't care for it. I prefer the other team's old style tank over that. Also, what's pretty cool is they made the aircraft a little easier to fly this time around. Like last time I tried flying helicopters in BF2, and well, I just suck at it, but oh well. This game I was able to pilot vehicles in the air a little bit easier, and so I enjoyed that as well. For the sound of this game, it's really good. If you have it loud enough that when you fire a weapon, you actually feel like you're firing a gun. It's that loud. My sister was in the room when I was playing on the surround sound, and I scared the crap out of her, and it was actually pretty funny. So yeah, also with the music is really nice, but they only play it during the loading screens and in the menus. Now, I understand why it's not in the battle, because, you know, you're walking around and you hear a soundtrack playing out of nowhere, and you're like, why the heck is there a soundtrack? Obviously, it's not very realistic. So I understand why they do that, but the music is good enough to where you almost wish it was in battle, but it's not, but it's okay. Also, with the sound effects of the vehicles and the people when you call out things are really good, although I had some issues with when the other team talked. Like, from what I've read up about the team's nationalities, it didn't sound like them. Both teams sound like they're the same country talking. It's a British accent for everyone. I guess that might be an issue with me. It might be upgraded in the next patch. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. But that was a small issue I had with that. Other than that, everything was pretty good in the sound department. The replay value of this game, you've got 40 unlocks, multiple, like tons of ranks, lots of awards that you can win through doing various objectives, and it will take you a long time to gain all that stuff. Also, this game, multiplayer-wise, obviously is the only place it shines, because that's all there is, really. The single player is just not there. There's nothing to it, really. It's the same thing, but with bots, and who wants to play with bots by yourself? That's just kind of lame. So, if you can get a LAN going on, that's a lot of fun. LANs are always great, especially yelling at each other and whatnot at the LAN parties. They're always fun. Multiplayer, online, that's great too. And this game will last you a long time. And if you're into FPSs, definitely pick it up. Futuristic theme, if you don't care for that, well, try it anyway. Go get the demo. You might enjoy it. I enjoyed this game a lot, and I hope you pick it up, and I hope you enjoy it too.
As you guys know, Step1, we're a bunch of gamers, and we love to land, and Battlefield has just been a game that we love to land with, and has had that game at every LAN that we've been to. And 2142 is just stepping up the ladder, and everyone's gonna get a copy, and we should be good to go soon enough.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to have a written review that'll go even more in depth on it, hopefully in the next week or so. And here's Adrian with some stuff you should know. And if you have any questions for it, sysk@step1pro.com.
Well, today on Stuff You Should Know, we're going to go over the basics of soldering. As you can see right in front of me, we have a soldering iron that we picked up from Radio Shack, about $20 or $30. You can go for a cheaper one, like 10 or 15, but like I would suggest you could always just buy it online and be set that way. There's always different types of solder. What we recommend is rosin core solder, so that you really don't have to deal with flux and other things that you would use in soldering. But there's also silver bearing solder. It just really depends on what type you get and which diameter that you want to get. And as you can see, this is a lot thicker than, let's say, a .015 diameter, and this one would be a .050. So, there's many types of diameters of solder and types of solder. So, I would suggest just looking through, perhaps research on the internet to see what type would suit whatever job you're doing the best. Of course, we got the wire stripper, which is always good to use and good to have around. And then we have a tool we would like to call the desolderizer. Comes very handy in pulling off liquid metal or whatever project you're working on. Alright. As you know, different types of wires. This is just a Cat 5 that me and Mark pulled apart. So, these are also known as not tinned. And then we have already pre-tinned wire that you can buy anywhere. I mean, it's just as cheap. It's just less work. So whatever you decide to choose on, it's up to you. And every project requires something different, so you can go from there. Well, I'd also like to give you a tip in the very beginning. When you're soldering, you want to do it in a well-ventilated area, because solder is no joke. It could, really mess you up. There's chemicals inside of solder that, when exposed to your face and eyes, could actually do quite a bit of damage. So you want to do it in a well-ventilated area. If you could get a sort of vacuum that would be able to suck like the fumes out of the room, or just into a vacuum, you might want to pick up into that. So yeah, we're just gonna do, since we couldn't find anything to solder today, we're just gonna teach you how to basically just solder a wire onto a motherboard. I mean, a very simple thing. We have the wire technique, which would be called the hook, which is where pretty much you bend the wire around the lead like this. And here we go. So you want to apply heat to the base of the object that you're soldering. And then you should be able to just touch the solder to the tip of the lead, and you should be good to go. It should just drip down. See, that wasn't too hard. Soldering is a very useful skill that can be learned by just about everyone, and can be used in repairing just about anything that has to deal with liquid metal and solder. You could be doing such things such as modding a console. Or, let's say that Cat 5 snapped in half. Well, you could easily repair that too. Earlier, Noah of the Step1 cast brought in a computer case for us to work on, and, the 250mm fan on the side, which I must say is a really big fan, was not hooked up to the regulator in the back. So, easily repairable job by soldering. We just, took it apart, spliced the wires, and then soldered the wires back in, and we were good to go. And, so soldering is a very useful skill, and I recommend it to anyone. You could do many things with it, like I said, modding a console, or, repairing cables. So, well, that's just about it here. That's stuff you should know. So, soldering. Wasn't that hard?
No, it wasn't. Thanks, Adrian. I got a program, once again, for programs that cost less than a penny. This one is pretty cool because you can throw it on your server. That way you can work on it wherever you're at, or you can throw it on your jump drive. So, to find out what it is, check it out. This week, for programs that cost less than a penny, I'm going to show you an application that kind of links a bunch of other applications. It's called Portable Apps. You can get it from portableapps.com. It covers a lot of programs that we have dealt with before, and also a bunch that I didn't really hear much about them until now. It allows you to install software onto your jump drive, or even a remote server, or onto a local network server, and run the files from there. Instead of installing it on every computer, you can install it to your jump drive, preferably a faster one, not like a slow little Kingston one that you spent $15 on. You want to get a nice fast one, that way you can load your applications pretty quick. Now, when you get this program, which of course portableapps.com, you can install it either to a directory, which then you can map it on another computer or stuff like that, or just browse to it on your local network. But one of the cool things is when you install the applications to it, it pops it up in the start bar. It's kind of like a start bar, not really, but in some sense it is, because it loads all your applications in there, kind of like the way XP does. It allows you to have remote pictures, videos, stuff like that, documents. But another thing that's really cool about this is, for instance, in my scenario, I work as an intern at a city. And when I'm working on, let's say, one of the laptops that the cop has, which are called Toughbooks, I'm sure you've seen them in many movies, or maybe seen the cop with one of them, they're very durable, and we try to keep them as clean as possible because there's not much horsepower behind them. Most of them don't even have fans in them. Now, instead of loading up with all this extra software when we're configuring it, we use just a jump drive with portable apps, or we'll just go to the network and then pull the files from there and just run it that way. Now, what's really cool is, let's say if I'm working on a laptop and I don't want to use IE, of course, or maybe I want to get on to AIM or MSN or something like that, I can throw this jump drive in and leave no trace when I'm done with whatever I'm doing, pull the drive out, and I'm good. Also running it from the network is the same way, but your configurations and your settings are saved into the actual the file or folder or whatever that is installed onto the network. So if you were doing it on the network, you kind of want to create a few directories for different people. That way, the settings and your login credentials, stuff like that, are not the same. Now, of course, when you look at the program, you notice that it's got, almost feels like, I don't know if you've ever seen the jump drives that they have down at Best Buy in the Geek Squad. Like, it just seems like that whole bloatware kind of thing to it. Sometimes, and for the most of the programs I've used, you can actually, bypass this whole menu system that they have and just install it wherever you want. Install it onto a server that's at your work and stuff like that, and you can just run it from there as long as you just go right to the executable. Saves a lot of time because you don't have to run the jump drive, stuff like that. And I think it's a little bit seamless, a little more seamless, being able to just run the application instead of having to run this Portable Apps menu and then run these other applications. Now, I know you don't have to use portableapps.com. You can go to Wikipedia and get a list of pretty much every every program that you can run remotely. And I'll just link that link on the side. But yeah, I mean, portable apps, it works for some people. Some people don't really care for it. Some people just don't need to have their applications portable. And if that applies to you, don't even bother getting it. But if you like that idea, I'd say download it. I mean, it's not a big file. Check it out. That pretty much wraps up programs that cost less than a penny. I really hope you try this one out. I mean, it's got a lot of functions. And go ahead, go to portableapps.com and give it your try.
Well, it's a very useful tool that, if you go to a school that blocks most of those programs or installing programs at all, you could just run this off a flash drive and, you could be good to go, get your way around it.
Yeah, I use it a lot. That's why, of course, I talked about it. But next, we actually have Security is Back. I mean, it's been a while since we've had a segment on it. I got to drive down to Gainesville a little while back, recorded it. We actually got a few things recorded from down there. This is the first one of many, but Security's Back. Check it out. Daniel's got you going.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the first security segment for Step 1 Season 2. We've got a lot of great stuff coming at you this year. We've got some in-depth discussion on buffer overflows. We've got more in-depth on SQL injections, some more proof of concept. Pretty interesting stuff. I'm also going to change up the pace a little bit and do a little bit of lock picking and some bumping. That's later on in the season. But for right now, what we're talking about is the Linksys WAG 200G router. It's a new router, came out in February. You can pick one up for about $100. It was made to replace the HG 354G, and it's pretty much the newest member of the Linksys team. Basically what this exploit entails is an attacker sending a packet to UDP port 916 on the router. The router will then send a response, and within the response that contains the product model, the password web interface, the username, the password, the WPA passphrase, and the SSID that the router is broadcasting. It just goes to show you that you're not always as secure as you think you are. This router just came out in February, and already there's a pretty big hole in it. So if you do have a router, which pretty much everyone does, I would suggest checking one of your trusted security websites, Secure Team, Security Focus. Check out, see if there are any vulnerabilities for your router. If there are, get the firmware fixes and updates. And it's hard to become completely secure in a world like this. The internet wasn't made to be secure, but there are small steps like this that you can take to make your computer more secure. So I'll see you guys next time.
I hope you guys enjoyed that security segment. It's nice to finally have Daniel back, and wasn't it pretty easy to get into that router? I hope it was.
Yeah. And there's not really much else to say except for one last thing, and that's sometime between the 12th and the 18th, you got another episode. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Remember, www.step1pro.com. You can check us out on Google Video, YouTube, anywhere. Just spread the word, guys. Take it easy.
Doggy ones. Oh my.